Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys.
Many people probably look back at the assassinations of JFK and specifically Martin Luther King Jr., also RFK, and they think, what a terrible tragedy. What a horrible thing that happened. What a great person trying to do their best to make change in the world, and their lives are cut short by some kind of bad guy, some kind of villain, some kind of evil Grinch. I don't know, not a Grinch. Someone bad, evil, whatever the, murderers, really.
Dr. Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee. Police have issued an all-points bulletin for a well-dressed young white man seen running from the scene.
That's what a normal person might believe. I am not exactly a well-adjusted, normal person. I have posited the potential idea that maybe JFK's head just did that. Or maybe the government was involved in the assassination of RFK, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK. There's a lot of conspiracies and there's a lot of information that's been behind closed doors until recently it has been said that all of that will be released over the next few weeks. I wanted to make a video on what we know about the assassination, specifically JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. They're two of the most scrutinized events in American history, and there is still no transparency from the perspective of the government to the people. The government has been withholding information in regard to these two events since they happened, all right? They've let out little trickles of stuff. People, the Zapruder film, it's like, oh, there's a grassy knoll had a third shooter. There's no way that bullet could... It seems like a big scam, and it seems like we've been getting scammed ever since these things happened to great people, and there's just no honesty. There's no transparency, and I'm glad to see that hopefully very soon the official narratives will be flipped on their head. That's what I propose will happen. I don't think that anything we have been told in regard to a lot of this stuff is the whole truth. I'm not saying that the FBI killed Martin Luther King Jr. or Lyndon B. Johnson potentially set up the assassination of JFK. I'm not saying that, just to be clear, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I was then shot 57 times.
I will preface this by saying read books, and even Wikipedia is an okay source. You can see where the information comes from in the sources on a Wikipedia page. Definitely read that stuff, but always take things with a grain of sand because more bizarre things have proven to not be true at all. And it's not out of the world of reality that maybe these two great people were killed because they wanted to change things that they're not allowed to change, and they just didn't know it. Today's video is about the JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. assassinations and the official narratives that have left many people unsatisfied, myself included, which through this has sparked countless alternative theories and investigations by smart people like me and other smart people like Jesse Ventura.
I have a silo full of tortillas. The magic bullet theory.
How does he sound?
Did you know in prep?
Shut up. Shut up.
Did you know?
Shut up.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. A goddamn sexual
And it seems as though we are on the brink of finally uncovering the truth. Right, the US government is set to release thousands of classified documents related to both assassinations. And before that happens over the next 30 to 60 days, it is crucial for us to understand the current state of our knowledge and dissect it, and then make bets and speculate. Yeah! In this video, we're going to be exploring the official explanations and results of investigations in regard to both of these events. This is essential information that you will need to fully grasp the significance of the upcoming revelations that we are going to experience. Truth about their assassinations is about to come out, and it might change everything we know in this video. Firstly, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. On November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy's motorcade made its way through the streets of Dallas, Texas. The sunny autumn day turned tragic at 12:30 p.m. when gunshots echoed through Dealey Plaza, striking both Kennedy and Texas Governor John Connally. I had a friend named John Connally when I was a kid. He was homeschooled. He was kind of odd, but I liked him. Maybe I shouldn't call out John Connally. He's a great dude. I haven't seen him. I'd love to see him again. I haven't seen him in years. The events that unfolded in the following moments and days would become the subject of intense scrutiny for almost 100 years. Not really 100 years. It hasn't even been anywhere close. It was 60 years ago.
62.
So JFK's head exploded in Dallas, and in response to the assassination, President Lyndon B. Johnson, old big cock, was sworn in and established the Warren Commission on November 29th, 1963 to conduct an official investigation into the tragic event of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the former president. By the way, investigation commission. The commission was led by Chief Justice Earl Warren, and it was tasked with uncovering the truth behind Kennedy's death and providing a comprehensive report to the American people. Look at these guys. That's a trustworthy group of individuals, I have to say. I'm just kidding. These people look like evil wizards. As the investigation progressed, Lee Harvey Oswald, a former U.S. Marine with known Marxist sympathies, which is big bad, absolute bad, can't do that in the 60s, he emerged as the primary suspect. Oswald's background, including his defection to the Soviet Union and subsequent return to the United States, added some layers of complexity to the case, and the commission's thorough examination of Oswald's life and activities in the months leading up to the assassination painted a picture of a quite troubled individual with potential motives for this crime. Take this snippet of information here. Oswald apparently started reading about communism when he was about 15 years old. In the Marines, he evidenced a strong conviction as to the correctness of Marxist doctrine, which one associate described as irrevocable, but also as theoretical. That associate did not think that Oswald was a communist. Oswald did not always distinguish between Marxism and communism. He stated several times that he was a communist, but apparently never joined any communist party. His attachment to Marxism and communist doctrine was probably in some measure an expression of his hostility to his environment. While there is doubt about how fully Oswald understood the doctrine which he so often espoused, it seems clear that his commitment to Marxism was an important factor influencing his conduct during his adult years. It was an obvious element in his decision to go to Russia and later to Cuba, and it probably influenced his decision to shoot at General Walker. It was a factor which contributed to his character. He shot at this guy, General Walker. Kind of a, you can't really do that. Now, the Warren Commission's final report was released in September of 1964, and it concluded that Oswald had acted alone in the assassination of President Kennedy. And according to their findings, Oswald fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, where he was employed at the time. This conclusion, I'm going to stop air quoting things. This conclusion was supported by several key pieces of evidence, including the discovery of a Mannlicher Carcano Italian rifle discovered on the 6th floor of the building and eyewitness testimonies placing Oswald at the scene. By the way, we've got a Carcano. Not a very good gun, total piece of shit. I would never be able to shoot as accurately and quickly as Lee Harvey Oswald did when he acted alone in murdering the president. I would never be able to do that. But then again, I'm not a Marxist sympathizing Marine, all right? I'm just a guy. I'm just a regular guy. So, you know. Look at the scope on that thing. That is just unbelievable. This is my favorite part of all this stuff in that I think it's the most realistic and holds the most water. Just kidding. Ballistic analysis played a crucial role in the commission's investigation. One of the most controversial aspects of their findings was the single bullet theory, which is f***ing insane. This theory proposed that one bullet caused multiple wounds to both Kennedy and Connally, and the theory attempted to explain the seemingly improbable trajectory of a single bullet and it causing so much damage.
In these 3 feet, the space between Kennedy and Connally, lie the answers that prove or disprove the single bullet theory.
The Warren Commission's report provided a detailed timeline of events reconstructing the moments before, during, and after the assassination, and their investigation included interviews with hundreds of witnesses, analysis of photographic and film evidence, and extensive forensic examination. The resulting 888-page report aimed to provide a definitive account of the tragedy that had shaken the nation to its core. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of context and maybe some stuff to look into. Look up Operation Northwoods. Okay, look up the Cuban Missile Crisis, look up the Bay of Pigs, do a little research on the Cold War. And I'm not talking like Google conspiracy, the truth behind, like don't go to some just read about it on Wikipedia. Buy a book. Read a history book, an actual history book. Read it. You can kind of piece things together that might make this commission, the result of this commission, seem less than trustworthy. All right, maybe it needs to be community noted or something, I'm not sure. But anyways, in spite of the Warren Commission's extensive and believable investigation, skepticism persisted, my friends. Critics argued that it ignored potential conspiracies involving the CIA, organized crime, the mafia, or foreign governments, the Soviets. At that time, there was a growing distrust in government that fueled alternative theories, specifically the Vietnam War and the Americans' involvement in the Vietnam War, the helicopter war, Lyndon B. Johnson, Lady Bird, I don't know, maybe the helicopter. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but it seems odd. And over the years, historians and forensic experts and geniuses like myself have continued to scrutinize evidence, and there's a lot of information in regard to this event. Books, documentaries, studies, everything that exists and keeps this debate alive. Now, we have the official story that the United States government has been plastering and propagandizing everyone into believing over the last 60 years, but public opinion polls that have been conducted over the years have consistently reflected a deep-seated skepticism, incessant, never-ending, deep-seated skepticism of the official narrative. In 2017, a poll revealed that only 33% of Americans believe Oswald acted alone, while 61% of people believed others were involved in the assassination. So yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work. We see through the bullshit, all right? We know the real reasons behind all this shit. We know about Saudi Arabia. We know about Panama, all right? We know about Noriega, dude. We know about, what's that other one called? Not the Gulf of Tonkin. That's the scandal that got us into the Vietnam War scandal. Oliver North? What'd he do? What's that one that he did in South America? I mean, dude, the CIA loves selling guns to cartels. What is up with all this? Anyways, we're off track a little bit. In short, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy spawned a vast array of conspiracy theories. Nobody believes the official story, essentially. A minority of people believe the official story. And the people who don't believe it attribute his death, the murder of JFK, to the CIA, Cuban exiles, potentially organized crime, the Soviets, whatever the I'm going to now give my thoughts as to what probably happened, and hopefully we will be able to contrast this in a few weeks when the official information comes out. I think there was 2 shooters, all right? I think there was at least 2 shooters. I think that the CIA was involved, and I think that Lyndon B. Johnson did it, and I think that, yeah, the whole Cuban Missile Crisis, just, how do you go on as a president after that? If you stop the beast, the war machine, the military-industrial complex, at that high of a level as the acting leader of the military-industrial complex at the time, you're going to die. The second guy in command is going to kill you, and you're going to die. And then right after he's murdered and assassinated, we immediately embroil ourselves in an unwinnable war again. I mean, it's un-American. I'm sorry, it's very un-American, but like, the government is evil, and it always will be evil, and it always has been evil, and it is impossible to argue against that in any way. It is fundamentally flawed. Humans suck dick and balls, especially those who want the power that they are afforded when they swear an oath to the United States Constitution. So yeah, I love the Constitution, by the way, but like, I don't like people in Washington, D.C. They killed JFK. I think everything implicating the CIA is going to be redacted. I feel like we're going to find out that there was 2 shooters. I think there are people who were involved, who were potentially still active in the government up until quite recently, that are going to be exposed, who are no longer involved. I think that's going to happen. Now on to the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of the most influential and impactful individuals in American history. You've definitely heard of him. There's a holiday. Everyone gets to take off that day.
I have a dream.
He was a leading figure for change in the incredibly stubborn world of the West, and that world wanted to remain stuck in its ways. He led protests, boycotts, and marches for racial equity. He played a key role in the Montgomery bus boycott from 1955 to 1956, the Birmingham campaign in 1963, and the March on Washington in 1963. That is where he delivered his incredibly famous and studied I Have a Dream speech. He also helped push for landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The guy's a absolute legend, American hero. His efforts did not end at racial inequality. He was also an advocate for economic justice. And by the late 1960s, he had been organizing the Poor People's Campaign, which aimed to advocate for increased wages for impoverished Americans, no matter what their race. If you think people are racist now, I mean, it's a completely different world in the anytime before, pretty much when I've been alive. It's just horrible to read about and to hear songs. There's a song called Alabama in 1953, I believe, by Luke Kelly. and the Dubliners. And it shows you the rest of the world knew. The rest of the world knew, and it was just a problem, an us problem, which is totally not that the rest of the world doesn't have issues as well, but it was really bad. It was really extremely bad. The Dubliners aren't some if they're writing a song about it, it's really a massive tragedy. And people like MLK fought for that massively. Back to the Poor People's Campaign, he was campaigning for impoverished workers who were underpaid. There were many dangers they were forced into. There were unsafe working conditions, and the dangers that these workers faced were made impossible to ignore when sanitation workers went on strike in Memphis, Tennessee in early 1968 after 2 black workers were crushed to death in a garbage truck. So Martin Luther King was not just an advocate for change, but also an advocate for peace for everybody. MLK's first march on March 28th in 1968 turned sour when some began breaking windows and looting, but they aimed to have a non-violent protest on April 5th, a few days later, although that never came to fruition due to the events on April 4th. On April 4th, 1968, the tranquility of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee was shattered by gunfire, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fell victim to an assassin's bullet on the motel's balcony. Chaos ensued, and eyewitnesses reported observing a man fleeing the scene, hastily discarding a bundle containing a rifle and binoculars. This sudden act of violence prompted an immediate investigation by the FBI. In good hands, am I right, fellow feds? The FBI's inquiry quickly identified James Earl Ray as the primary suspect in Dr. King's assassination, and Ray's background as a career criminal with a history of armed robbery made him a person of significant interest. Point is, this guy was in and out of prison, he was evading the police, he was crazy, he had a bunch of crimes he committed, and he looked funny. He looked racist, to be honest. And as investigators delved deeper into Ray's movements before and after the assassination, they uncovered a complex pattern of aliases and false identities. This deception suggested a level of premeditation and planning that went beyond just a spontaneous act of violence. Ray's ability to construct and maintain multiple identities posed a significant challenge to law enforcement efforts to track his whereabouts and piece together his activities leading up to the fatal shooting. And after the shooting, for over 2 months, Ray successfully evaded capture, testing the resources and determination of international law enforcement agencies, specifically the FBI. And his ability to remain at large for such an extended period of time fueled speculation and conspiracy theories, with people questioning whether or not he had received assistance from a co-conspirator or something like that. The manhunt for James Earl Ray came to a conclusion on June 8th, 1968 at London's Heathrow Airport as Ray attempted to board a flight to Belgium. Authorities apprehended him and brought his 2-month flight from justice to an end on the tarmac. That guy. So it was global. He was going to Belgium. He was in London and he was going to Belgium. This guy was, he escaped basically. Following his arrest, Ray was extradited to the United States to face charges for the assassination of Dr. King.
Be held for the county of Shelby at the courthouse in Memphis.
Initially, Ray confessed to the crime, seemingly providing some closure to the investigation and offering a resolution to a nation and massive group of people that just lost a civil rights icon. But the case took an unexpected turn when Ray recanted his plea. It threw the proceedings into disarray and reignited questions about the true circumstances regarding Dr. King's death. In fact, an interview with Ray in 1977 shows him insisting that he was framed for the assassination.
So you heard all this confusion, flipped on the radio, they said Dr. King's been shot. Did you think you were set up at that point?
No, I was headed toward New Orleans when I had the radio on. I used to keep the radio on. I think I have too strong feelings about the shooting.
Crazy. That's crazy. They should have killed him. They should have got somebody to kill him so he wouldn't say that. Now, in spite of his retraction and what that man says, could just be a crazy person, clearly, the official investigation concluded that he had acted alone in the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the FBI's findings suggested that Ray's motivation stemmed from a combination of racism, racial hatred, and a desire for notoriety. Plus, he was a criminal, so easy story. There's a lot of claims as to what happened to MLK. COINTELPRO, there's government organizations that we know were targeting civil rights groups during this time. So the government was like, we don't like you people. That's literally what they said. That's actually what the government said that. They said that a lot, and they didn't actually say it like in quotes. They didn't say that shit, but they had operations that really, when you boil it down, if you were to translate what they were doing to English, it would say, we don't like that. We're racist pieces of shit. We're gonna kill you if you don't stop. There's a lot of conspiracies on this one. There's a lot for JFK as well. There's a ton for Dr. King. We've been fortunate enough to have quite a few things declassified over the last 2 presidencies under Biden and Trump, and many things will soon be even more declassified. In 2017, around 2,900 documents that were withheld were released, and in 2021, Biden also authorized the release of around 1,500 documents. But both presidents, Trump and Biden, delayed some declassifications, some of which weren't ready to be shared. What the does that mean? And some of which could have a drastic effect on the government. What the does that mean, dude? Why are they not releasing it? Why are you not releasing this stuff? If it's just a criminal, if it's a guy who acted alone, release all of it. When you're trying to hide shit, you don't release stuff. Especially when you trickle little things out over 60 years. And you're just like, well, let's release this. This makes us look good. Tweet that. Retweet that. Okay. Just say, we killed him. Sorry, it's different now. We're different now. It's under new management or whatever. If we want to talk about more official stories, the official reasons that some of these documents haven't come out is to protect sources and methods of investigation, which that's total bullshit. So now there are some crazy conspiracies out there, and there are some more reasonable ones. I've seen some posts about this. Some people saying Dr. King was actually a government agent working for the CIA and that he was actually not a good person at all. There's a Reddit thread where someone posted a link to some declassified files about MLK Jr. stating that he participated in gay orgies, was a drug addict, and paid prostitutes for sex and more. I'm not saying that, I'm not slandering his name, but this is a file that actually exists. So I don't know what the reason they're not releasing more. There's a bunch of legends around JFK also when it comes to women and just being a delinquent. It was a totally different time. No defense for or against. It's wild shit, and I'm really excited for everything to just come out. Anyway, the full declassified files are set to be released within a few weeks. I hope we see some shit, and I hope it isn't just blank, redacted. Just shut up. Just release it, dude. And bring the aliens on too. I'm ready for all this stuff to be over. I don't want to have to go to work tomorrow. Or whatever people say. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think happened down below. Let me know what you think is the most reasonable thing. And if you enjoyed, press the like button. Go watch the second channel, Oompa TV. Go watch the third channel, Game Dev Shit. And go to sour.gg and buy some candy.